The end of law is not to abolish or restrain, but to preserve and enlarge freedom. For in all the states of created beings capable of law, where there is no law, there is no freedom. To love truth for truth's sake is the principal part of human perfection in this world, and the seed plot of all other virtues. In transgressing the law of nature, the offender declares himself to live by another rule than that of reason and common equity. Freedom of men under government is to have a standing rule to live by, common to every one of that society, and made by the legislative power vested in it, a liberty to follow my own will in all things, when the rule prescribes not, and not to be subject to the inconstant, unknown, arbitrary will of another man. All mankind, being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty or possessions. Man hath by nature a power to preserve his property, that is, his life, liberty, and estate, against the injuries and attempts of other men. Parents wonder why the streams are bitter, when they themselves poison the fountain. Success in fighting means not coming at your opponent the way he wants to fight you. The great question which, in all ages, has disturbed mankind, and brought on them the greatest part of their mischiefs, has been, not whether be power in the world, nor whence it came, but who should have it. We are like chameleons, we take our hue and the color of our moral character from those who are around us. To love our neighbor as ourselves is such a truth for regulating human society, that by that alone, one might determine all the cases in social morality. I have always thought the actions of men the best interpreters of their thoughts. The discipline of desire is the background of character. The dread of evil is a much more forcible principle of human actions than the prospect of good. To prejudge other men's notions, before we have looked into them, is not to show their darkness, but to put out our own eyes. Our business here is not to know all things, but those which concern our conduct. All men are liable to error, and most men are, in many points, by passion or interest, under temptation to it. Our deeds disguise us. People need endless time to try on their deeds until each knows the proper deeds for him to do. But every day, every hour, rushes by. There is no time. Where there is no property, there is no injustice. Our incomes are like our shoes. If too small, they gall and pinch us. But if too large, they cause us to stumble and to trip. Being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions. Every man has a property in his own person. This nobody has a right to, but himself. The reason why men enter into society is the preservation of their property. Fashion, for the most part, is nothing but the ostentation of riches. There are 1,000 ways to wealth, but only one way to heaven. The improvement of understanding is for two ends. First, our own increase of knowledge. Secondly, to enable us to deliver that knowledge to others. Education begins the gentleman, but reading, good company, and reflection must finish him. No man's knowledge here can go beyond his experience. It is easier for a tutor to command than to teach. Reading furnishes the mind only with materials of knowledge. It is thinking that makes what we read ours. There is frequently more to be learned from the unexpected questions of a child than the discourses of men. Where all is but dream, reasoning and arguments are of no use, truth and knowledge nothing. A sound mind in a sound body is a short but full description of a happy state in this world. He that has these two has little more to wish for, and he that wants either of them will be little the better for anything else. It is one thing to show a man that he is in an error, and another to put him in possession of the truth. The visible mark of extraordinary wisdom and power appears so plainly in all the works of creation. Men being, as has been said, by nature, all free, equal and independent. No one can be put out of this estate and subjected to the political power of another without his own consent. The only defense against the world is a thorough knowledge of it. Reverie is when ideas float in our mind without reflection or regard of the understanding. What worries you, masters you. Fortitude is the guard and support of the other virtues. Things of this world are in so constant a flux that nothing remains long in the same state. Liberty is to be free from restraint and violence from others. Nature never makes excellent things for mean or no uses. Few men think, yet all will have opinions. Hence men's opinions are superficial and confused. Personal identity depends on consciousness, not on substance. Who are we to tell anyone what they can or can't do? We are born to be, if we please, rational creatures, but it is use and exercise only that makes us so. It is of great use to the sailor to know the length of his line, though he cannot with it fathom all the depths of the ocean. Practice conquers the habit of doing without reflecting on the rule. I close my eyes, take a deep breath, and let it out completely, along with my soul. New opinions are always suspected and usually opposed, without any other reason, but because they are not common. It is only practice that improves our minds as well as bodies, and we must expect nothing from our understandings any farther than they are perfected by habits. It is ambition enough to be employed as an underlaborer in clearing the ground a little and removing some of the rubbish which lies in the way to knowledge. The legislative cannot transfer the power of making laws to any other hands, for it being but a delegated power from the people, they who have it cannot pass it over to others. When we find out an idea, by whose intervention we discover the connection of two others, this is a revelation from God to us, by the voice of reason. Truths are not the better nor the worse for their obviousness or difficulty, but their value is to be measured by their usefulness and tendency. There are some men of one, some but of two syllogisms, and no more, and others that can but advance one step farther. Virtue is harder to be got than knowledge of the world, and if lost in a young man, is seldom recovered. He that takes away reason, to make way for revelation, puts out the light of both, as one who pokes out the eye to see. The better to understand the nature, manner, and extent of our knowledge, one thing is carefully to be observed concerning the ideas we have, and that is, that some of them are simple and some complex.